And this year, the National Campus Chapter of the Year is William Paterson University. They presented a series of 18 programs called Reality Check, which covered a range of topics, and continued a shadow program, which started last year with students shadowing a theater critic, and this year featured 6 students shadowing a professional basketball announcer. Congratulations.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to William Paterson's University College of Arts and Communication. Today I'm here with Dr. Nicholas Hirshon, who is a professor at William Paterson University and also advisor of William Paterson University's Society of Professional Journalists. And today we're going to talk about WPSPJ, what they do, and their big national campus celebration win. How did this idea of creating WPSPJ start? Where did it come from? Where did you get the idea?
Well, I had been a reporter before I was a professor. And when I was still a reporter at the New York Daily News, that was my first job out of college, I learned about the Society of Professional Journalists. There had never been a campus chapter at my university, but I thought it would be an interesting way of networking with people, getting maybe some mentorship, just getting different opportunities that you couldn't get when you were in class, or even for me as a young professional. So I became involved in SPJ. I had helped start a campus chapter at my previous university, St. John's University in New York.
So what impacted your decision to start it? So I understand you started at St. John's, so I'm assuming it kind of impacted your decision to start it here, but was there, did Dean Loretta help you bring it to fruition or anything like that?
Well, I had already been thinking about it when I was hired at William Paterson. And then actually one day, Dr. Rob Quick, who was the chair of our department at the time, he stopped by my office in 2017 and said something about that maybe since I'd been bringing in all these guest speakers to my classes who are journalists, maybe I should do that in a department-wide way, like kind of expand that. And I said, oh, that's an interesting idea and that'd be really fun. And then I told him, well, I always wanted to do something like that under the auspices of an SPJ chapter. So I talked to him about it, and he was really pivotal because he gave us some funding to start the chapter. You need to pay certain fees to get a charter and to have students joining and all of this. So he was very helpful and encouraging there. And actually at that time, Dean Moore was in charge of the College of Arts and Communication. But yes, Dean Loretta McLaughlin Vignier was the associate dean, and all of them had been very supportive and attended different events early on, tried to, show that this was something important going on in our campus. And it started with those reality check speakers coming, once a month. I would have someone from the industry come to campus, give a lecture, or they'd have a discussion with me in Hobart Hall, now Hamilton Hall, and then expanded to all these other activities on and off campus.
How did you find the inaugural members? Did you ask them in your classes?
It was spring of 2017, and Dr. Quick knew he was going to become chair. So that's how he started having that conversation with me about, maybe, Nick, you should start doing this stuff in the fall. And then in the summer of 2017, I got together with the potential students. Basically, we had asked various professors who were standout students from your classes, or students that who were engaged with the radio, TV station, Pioneer Times, what have you. And so that's, I think, how we got them all together. And I think that there were 11 founding members originally. So I remember calling a meeting in that Pioneer Times / grad office in Hamilton Hall, and just kind of expressing to everybody, you've been selected. We've been told that you're some of the best journalism students that William Paterson has to offer. And we would love for you to be a part of this effort.
can you explain what it means to be a part of this club?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to recognize that WPSPJ is a campus chapter of a wider national organization. So we are members of the Society of Professional Journalists nationally, which is the oldest and most broad-based journalism advocacy group in the United States, started in 1909. And it contains journalists from around the country, journalism educators who are committed to First Amendment rights, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, who advocate for journalists who have been attacked, who have been imprisoned across the world. Just a wonderful organization. And so what we do in our campus chapter is to try to strengthen the journalism culture on campus, to try to give students like yourself an opportunity outside of class to meet with like-minded students, right? Maybe have discussions across the barriers, because at least for me, when I was going to college, there was the kids who were on the student newspaper and they were separate from the kids at the TV station, separate from the kids at the radio station. Maybe there's some crossover, but there were like different silos. And what I would hope something like SPJ could do is bring all of those students together. And then as kind of a second part of that is having the opportunity to go places, meet people that we can't really do as well in a class, but it gives me, I always say, it gives me an excuse to kind of ask students, okay, who would you love to hear from? Who would you love to me to invite to campus? Or let's go shadow them at work and see what they do. Where would you like to go? What do you want to be as a journalist? SPJ gives me an opportunity to then make that happen in a way that I can't just through a class.
Yeah, I think that's so cool how we've given so many opportunities to students. What are some of the various events like field trips you did in the beginning?
I have a friend, Dennis Gorman, who's a sports writer at the Associated Press. And so I was just talking to him one day about, oh, what could I do with these students? Where could we take them? And he volunteered very generously, oh, I can ask, you guys are in New Jersey, how about the New Jersey Devils? Maybe they could get us into a hockey game that Dennis is covering, and then Dennis could show all the students around and take us into the press box, teach us how to be sports journalists. How do you do an interview? How do you write on deadline? All of that. So I remember talking to him about it. And then around the same time, I'd also connected with a theater critic, Ruth Ross, who runs a website, njartsmaven.com. And she's a former teacher, again, very generous person, who said, I can get the students discounted rate at a local community theater in West Orange. They can shadow me as I watch a performance, and then we can talk about the reviewing process. And I think it was around that time that I realized if you just ask different people and different news outlets, a lot of them are going to say yes. Sure, you can come here and see what we do. And so it's just a matter of student interest and kind of gumption on my part of saying, yeah, I'm going to send an email and say, students here would love to go to ProPublica, SNY, WFAN, the sports radio station. We've gone to all of these places. And it's just a matter of asking and hoping that they'll say yes. And I don't think I've really been turned down by many places.
WPSPJ creates so many connections to other journalists, to other broadcast stations or newspapers. So since its inaugural year, you guys won the National Campus Chapter in 2020 in November. Explain how you felt after you won the National Campus Chapter celebration.
Well, as you know, John, I was recording the ceremony that night. I was watching it here at home on Zoom, and I had only found out not long before then that the ceremony was even happening, because there's some confusion about with the pandemic. Usually it's in person in August or September. This year it was going to be virtual all the way in November, closer to Thanksgiving. And so that was just trying to figure that out. And I was just here watching it, and they're going through the list of winners of different things. And they, mentioned the runner-up. And then when they said, and the winner this year is William Paterson University. And as I told you and your fellow members, I was recording, you could hear in the background that I actually jumped up because I couldn't believe that they mentioned our name. So you can hear in that video my jumping on my tiled floor in my kitchen. Because as I've said, I couldn't almost imagine that when we started this organization in 2017, that only 3 years later, we're going to win nationally. We're beating out schools that are 3 times the size of ours. We're being recognized on the same plane as schools like Ohio University, DePaul, University of Florida, Minnesota, these schools that have many more resources than we do, big budgets maybe to spend on SPJ events and to go to conferences and all that. So I was so grateful to the Society of Professional Journalists for recognizing that we had done all of that hard work, even though we're maybe have less name recognition than some of the other schools that they're used to dealing with. And it's just pride in that if you put a lot of effort into something, it doesn't matter where you go to school, where you're from, that you can put that effort into it and people are going to recognize it. And I think that's a really powerful message of what I came out of that with, of like, it's not just like, oh, they're going to dismiss us because we're a smaller university, they haven't heard of us before. They read the reports of what all the different chapters across the country were doing, almost 100 of them, and said William Paterson was the best. And that to me is really powerful.
Yeah, I think that says a lot about what kind of events we've had. I think it says a lot. The reality checks mean something to people, especially to the national organization. And I think our workshops, our field trips mean a lot to other people. So explain your feelings of how much you guys think you've accomplished in such a short span of when you first started.
If you are someone who hustles and you're able to quickly plan events and understand that this all takes a lot of work, and a lot of it is unseen work, and it's work that is happening late at night, and me scrambling to find speakers every semester or asking students all the time, what would you like us to do this semester? Where would you like us to go? Who would you like to shadow? If I could get anybody in the world for us to hear from as a reality check speaker, who would it be?
So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. You can follow WPSPJ on Twitter and Instagram at WPSPJ. And you can follow College of Arts Communication on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at WPCoac. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please subscribe to our YouTube page too. Thank you, Dr. Hirshon.